Welcome to Kingdom Housewives, the podcast for women growing in faith and becoming the godly wives God has called us to be. Here, we talk love, purpose, and walking in grace while honoring God in our homes and hearts. This is where faith meets womanhood. Welcome to Kingdom Housewives.
Hey, Christ followers, welcome back to Kingdom Housewives. I'm your host, Heidi, and I'm so grateful you're here today. In this episode, we're going to talk about something that sounds pretty simple, but in real life, it can be one of the hardest things to do. And that's trusting, but specifically trusting in the Lord. And we're not talking about trusting Him in theory, or trusting Him only when things make sense, but truly trusting Him when the situation feels uncertain, when the outcome is unknown, and when we're standing in a place where we truly have no control. You see, trusting God isn't passive. It's active. It's surrendered. And often it's forged in moments where fear could take over, but instead peace steps in. Today, I want to share a personal testimony from my own life. We're going to walk through several key scriptures and talk honestly about what it means to trust God without dismissing wisdom, without ignoring responsibility, and without leaning on our own understanding. So first, I want to start with my testimony, learning to trust God in the unknown. Back in 2012, I had been married for a few years, and we found out we were pregnant again. And this was going to be our third child. So we were really excited, and we were really hoping for a boy. So I went into my doctor's appointment super excited, ready to see the ultrasound, ready to hear the news. And sure enough, when they told me we were having a son, I was so overjoyed. But then the atmosphere in the room shifted. The doctor sat me down, and her demeanor became very serious. She said something along the lines of, "We've been looking at your son's heart, and he has a few holes in his heart." Now, when you hear something like that, your attention sharpens instantly. I asked her, "What does that mean? Like, what can happen?" And she explained that sometimes this condition can correct itself while the baby is still in the womb. And the moment she said that, something happened inside of me. Like I heard very clearly in my spirit, that's what's going to happen. And immediately, this overwhelming calm washed over me. It was almost like everything slowed down. Like she continued explaining worst case scenarios, possible outcomes, and next steps, but I wasn't panicking. I wasn't spiraling. I was listening, but I was at peace. And if you know me, that's not my natural demeanor. I probably looked completely unfazed, and I'm sure she thought, "Are you not hearing me?" But I was hearing her. I just wasn't afraid. Now, don't get it twisted. I wasn't being careless or dismissive. I asked questions. I like information, and I want to understand things. She said, worst case scenario, when your baby is born, we would need to do open heart surgery. And again, I felt peace. Now, not denial, not ignorance, just a deep knowing that's not going to happen. Before I left, she scheduled another ultrasound with a specialist for a few weeks later, just to get a closer look. On the drive home, I was excited to tell my husband that we're having a boy. And honestly, I wasn't even planning to mention the heart issue simply because I wasn't worried. But I don't keep anything from my husband. So I told him very casually, "Oh, by the way, they said he has holes in his heart, but it's fine." I said it so nonchalantly that I'm sure he was thinking, excuse me, what's going on? So I explained everything to him. And even then, I just remained completely calm. I didn't go around telling people, and not because I was hiding it, but because I genuinely wasn't anxious. I knew that peace wasn't from me, it was from God. So a few weeks later, I went to the specialist appointment. And on the way there, I was praying and I was talking to God, saying, Lord, you know my heart. I'm not coming here because I'm afraid. I'm just grateful to get more pictures of my son. Like, I was excited, not nervous. So during the ultrasound, the technician started squinting at the screen. And then she called someone else in and they whispered in the hallway. And I remember thinking, okay, what's going on? They came back in and said, we don't see any holes. Like, everything corrected itself. And y'all, I was not shocked. I was grateful. And on my way home, I just praised God. Like, that was you, God. Look at you. I knew you could do it. Go ahead, God. Like, I was just giving him the kudos. And even the next week at church, there is a woman that works with ultrasounds, and she got a look at my ultrasound. She's like, yeah, there's no holes at all. Everything looks great. So it was just even more confirmation. And even after my son was born, I asked the doctor, can you double check, just to confirm everything looks good and everything perfect, healthy heart, nothing wrong. And I thank God for that. Now, listen, I have absolutely had moments in my life where trusting God was hard for me. Like, I've struggled, I have questioned, and I have wrestled. But this was one of those moments where I can honestly say I trusted him fully. And so, what does it mean to truly trust God? And that brings us to our foundational scripture. I love reading Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, where it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. This verse doesn't say trust God when it makes sense. It doesn't say trust God when you have control. It says trust him with all your heart. So to trust God means surrendering our need to fully understand every detail. Now, this does not mean doctors are useless. It does not mean wisdom doesn't matter. God gives wisdom to physicians, to counselors and leaders. Scripture repeatedly tells us the importance of wise counsel. So if a doctor tells you to rest or change your diet or take medication, and you say, well, I'm just trusting God, that's not exactly faith. That's presumption. And here's a way I personally balance this. If there is something I can do physically, then I do it. If there is nothing I can do but trust, then I trust. Now, that doesn't mean I don't trust when I can physically do something. If my blood pressure is high and I can bring it down by reducing the sodium, I'm going to reduce the sodium, and I'm also going to trust God in that. But I can't tempt God and just eat all the things and expect to be healthy. In my son's case, there was nothing I could do physically to fix his heart. So I placed it in God's hands. That's wisdom and trust working together. You see, God's plans are bigger than our perspective. In Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. This verse was written to people in exile, people who didn't feel hopeful. God was reminding them that his plans were still intact, even when their circumstances looked bleak. God's plans are intentional. They're purposeful. They're rooted in hope, even when we can't see them yet. Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 through 9 reads, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." This is why trust is required. God sees what we cannot see. He knows what we do not know. And his perspective is eternal. So you see, trust and obedience, they go together. In fact, when I was growing up, I remember singing this old hymn. And it went like this: "Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey." You see, you can't separate the two. We trust him and we obey him. And there's a song by Elevation Worship called "Trust in God." And one line always stands out to me. The lyric is, "I know the author of tomorrow is ordering my steps." What peace that brings to me every time I hear it. God isn't reacting to your future. He already authored it. And then there are some scriptures that anchor our trust. Like Psalm chapter 37, verse 5. "Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act." God doesn't ask us to control outcomes. He asks us to commit and trust. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." All things includes the waiting seasons, the disappointments, the delays, the growth you can't see yet. In Psalm 9, verse 10, it reads, "And those who know your name put their trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you." Knowing God deepens trust. And as we talked about in last week's episode, we know God by reading his word, studying scripture, and walking with him daily. Trust grows with relationship. So you may not understand every step. You may not see the full picture, but God is faithful. So do your part. Seek wisdom. Obey where he leads. And then trust him. Because he's good. God is faithful. And God, he has never failed. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. He is the one that we can trust in. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this episode helps you continue to trust in God, even when you feel hopeless, know that you can rely on Him. He is the one you can always rely on. And if this episode has blessed you, please follow and share and join me next week.
Thank you for joining today. If Kingdom Housewives has blessed you, please like, follow, and subscribe and share this podcast with others. Together, let's continue to glorify God.